Hello there, right here we got brand new 1.18 snapshot. This is 21W38A. This comes with a whole bunch of technical changes in hopes to make the game run much smoother. Plus we get insight on how old worlds are going to be updated to the new deep caves. Make sure you guys are subscribed for future update reviews. Now let's get into all the new stuff. They changed the way that sprinting will get interrupted. Before, if you would sprint along a wall and accidentally bump the wall, you would end up going back to just normal walking. Now if you're sprinting with a low angle, you can still sprint while bumping up against a wall. This is great if you're along a tunnel and you just barely graze a side, you can continue sprinting. They also changed in how high copper generates in the world. Now it will generate up to Y level 95, as they originally wanted it to. They also come in and increase the amount of copper that can be found overall. They also added it so that lapis now come in blobs, just like many other ores, instead of like it was before where lapis were in single pieces. They added in a new feature into the Java edition, which we have in the Bedrock edition, and this is simulated distance. So besides render distance, we have a new slider, which is simulated distance. The way it works in Bedrock is that you can crank up your render distance, then you're able to see very far in your world, but the game isn't trying to like make stuff happen in those far out chunks. Just imagine them as kind of being like unloaded. So entities will not be updated outside of the simulated distance, which is the other slider. So if your CPU is overwhelmed, you can reduce the area where the game is actually trying to have stuff happen while still being able to see really far away. So entities will only update inside of this simulated area. So let's keep the simulated kind of low and let's crank up the render distance really high and see how my CPU handles it. So it's rendering all the chunks around me. It's not doing it really fast. CPU is at 99%, but it should come down once everything is completed. So it's finishing rendering all of those faraway chunks and actually went back down to 30% for my CPU and 20% for my GPU. So I can actually see really far away and the frames are a little bit low because I'm currently recording and it's recording off of my GPU. Now besides this property being in your client for single player, they also have this in the server properties. So on servers, you can choose to make it so that people can see really far, but it won't actually simulate any entities really far out. Now they're hoping to also add so that the simulation will affect block and fluid ticking. So block updates would occur outside the simulation and like fluid ticking would also not occur. This would be great for servers so that we don't have to worry about reducing the viewing distance of the player just to try to combat the problem with too much stuff being loaded per person. And of course, if you're on single player, you can always adjust it however your CPU can handle. They came up with another big change, which is they increase the maximum amount of background threads. Various background tasks include the world generation are executed on the background thread pool, and it was equal to the amount of available threads -1 for the CPU, but it had an upper limit of 7. Now the upper limit is 255, and this will help with higher end machines with the world generation performance. This upper limit can be exceeded, for example, if you're running multiple servers on a single machine. They also came out with telemetry changes where they reintroduced a diagnosing tracking that we used to have back in 2018 that would let us understand what exactly are the problematic areas when running the game. They're adding this in because of the new extremely heavy generation for the new caves and cliffs. And they're going to be collecting this data in order to try to improve it. This is information that they're collecting, but it sounds like they might be adding some more in the future. We also got some insight on how they're going to deal with the old world generation, where the caves aren't as deep. This is a tweet from Corner Hard MC. He's one of the Bedrock Edition developers. And he says, what happens when you have old world with layers of bedrock at Y level 0 and you upgrade to 1.18? The bedrock turns to mineable blocks and you can explore much deeper. So if we go on to read the Bedrock changes under the category experimental features, there is added in new world cave generation when upgrading saved chunks below Y level 0 using the Caves and Cliffs experimental toggle. Chunks previously upgraded with the bedrock underneath will not see this change. So even in your old chunks, you could find the new like dripstone biome and the lush cave one. And for bedrock players, it goes down the list explaining exactly how you can do this to your world. Here is the experimental toggle, and it has a warning, but it does say that this is experimental and it could cause your worlds not to be compatible with future versions of Bedrock. So make sure to make copies of it. Now, even though all of this is just for the Bedrock edition, it's most likely this is the same way that they're going to treat the Java edition. So if you did things like removed a whole bunch of bedrock in your world or made overworld wither cages, or if you just had fun making tunnels to the bedrock like I did and having bedrock vaults, you probably don't want to have that bedrock removed or have extra blocks placed underneath of the world where mobs would end up spawning and would mess up your farms that you built above them. Especially if they reintroduce the mob spawning to be like at sea level throughout the entire world, because if they do that, then there's no reason to actually rebuild your farms lower down. So probably the next question would be, is it possible to have some chunks convert over and some chunks not? I'm sure you could do this with like a third-party program. But overall, what do you guys think about this toggle option and it potentially coming to Java Edition? In the last snapshot, they came out with quite a few very technical things added into the game. So they went ahead in this one and fixed some of the bugs for that one. They fixed a bug to do with the new audio output selection. The game was failing to switch to an audio output from one device to another after game has started. They fixed two problems to do with aquifers in the game. The first one being that aquifers were often generating with extremely harsh borders, making them not look very natural. The second being that there was too many aquifers on biome surfaces when the biome surface was at sea level or below. Weird aquifer placement on the surface was my only real complaint about the new generation. So I'm glad that they are addressing this. There are still some problems in the game like this here where a tree was trying to be placed over here but it wasn't ultimately, but the leaves of the tree were still placed, but since it was a different chunk it left them in. In the last snapshot, the game wasn't placing in any strongholds, so you wouldn't even be able to finish the game. But in the new one, it is fixed. You guys might have noticed that in my video about how you can easily kill withers in 1.18, there was this bug where the light was making it so that it looked like that there was something dark above me that was making all the blocks extremely dark. And this bug was now fixed in the snapshot. And it had to do with the new lighting changes that they added into the game. They also resolved the problem of a memory leak in the last snapshot. This was a problem in the previous snapshot where you had to constantly restart your Minecraft, otherwise it would just get extremely slow. The new JFR debug command was having overriding occurring if you start and stop it multiple times, and now that's resolved. Mojang also fixed a few other bugs to do with the new JFR. Here's another chunk border bug where you can see that this geode got cut off by this nearby chunk, and it also got a mineshaft cutting right through it, which looks really cool. The new grow biome wasn't actually having any trees in the last snapshot, which now it does in the newest one. When changing your render distance, they would sometimes have a crash occur where this problem is now fixed. They also resolved this problem where dripstone caves would make themselves onto the surface and just completely kind of tear up the natural terrain around them. They resolved this problem where caves were being cut off abruptly. They also fixed a problem that there was just too many caves and lakes generating inside of the desert surface. As a lot of you guys point out that there should be an indication when using the new right-click action for preventing plants from growing, and there now is. There's not any particles, but as you can hear, it makes a shearing noise. It would be cool if they also added in some particles to kind of visually show you that it has changed. Now check out this playlist if you want to see more weird things that are coming out with 1.18, and check out this other one if you want to see cool glitches that we discovered while playing this game for over 12 years. I would like to thank all you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!